Hello, everyone. It is the time of the week I have been waiting for the most. I've been waiting for it since last week. The final 3 packs of the Washington Chronicles from Historic Autographs. Last time, a quick little recap. We had 3 short prints, one of them numbered. The family tree lenticular, that is numbered. It's 423 of 499. And then we had the 2 short prints. The 199, I believe, was the alloy, and then one of 699. So they're not numbered, it's just that's all there were. And one of them was an alloy, and I can't remember what the other one was. It was the thumbnail of the last one. So it started off really strong, plus an absolute amazing amount of history. And now we are going to do the final 3 packs. Plus, we just got a new pack in of this stuff, along with 2 other historic autograph packs from Milo in Sunday's Mail Day that'll be coming up soon. But for now, we have the final 3 packs of the blaster that I bought myself. Off camera, there is my off-camera drink because I'm going to be talking a lot, so I will be needing it. Sponsored by a random mystery off-camera drink. If you know, that means you're in my house, and that's slightly terrifying. But if they would like to sponsor me, they can reach out at some point. Let us go. Washington dancing. Settle in, everybody. This is going to be a good one. George Washington loved to dance. I did read that in the book by Joseph J. Ellis. The book is called His Excellency George Washington. Probably one of the finest biographies on George Washington I've ever read. Highly recommend. He probably learned during his teen years spent at Mount Vernon with his brother Lawrence or at Belvoir Manor with his friends at the Fairfax family. He wrote of his love for it in letters during his trip to Barbados. By the time he was an officer during the French and Indian War, he had honed the talent considerably and known for his flawless minuet. I would like to one day be known for my flawless minuet. Interior design by Washington. It's a nice looking window. The battlefield was not the only place where George Washington used his spatial skills. The founding father also had a knack for interior design. He expanded and upgraded Mount Vernon during the years he lived there, choosing bold colors and innovative designs for nearly all 21 rooms in the 3-story mansion. That I actually did not know. But that is rather fascinating. We're going to do that. There we go. Elizabeth Willing Powell. Did we see her before? We did, yes. We saw her in the last one, the Philadelphia socialite. I do remember her. We got the Battle of White Plains, another of the map cards. Pause and take a look at that map. God, that is nice. The Battle of White Plains, October 28, 1776, had British General Howe and the British Army soundly defeating the Continental Army and forced George Washington and his troops to retreat from New York City. After gathering all of the Continentals remaining on Manhattan, Washington was chased across New Jersey until he used the natural barrier of the Delaware River, here we go, to halt the British pursuit. The British took Kingsbridge and captured Fort Washington. There were roughly 217 American casualties and 233 British casualties. What do we got here? The Battle of Quinton's Bridge. All right. On March 17, 1778, colonial militia formed a line of defense on the south bank of Alloway's Creek. The British, having occupied Salem, attacked the next day and by a ruse drew the colonials across the creek into an ambush. 7 colonials died in the retreat, but the creek line held. March 18th, a group of patriots defending a bridge over Alloway Creek in New Jersey. The patriots suffered as many as 40 casualties after falling into a trap laid by British Lieutenant Colonel Charles Mawhood. However, the remaining men refused to leave in Mawhood's attempt to force a colonial retreat was unsuccessful. And sometimes that's more important, just the simple act of not retreating, even if you don't lose, or even if you don't win, I should say. The Judiciary Act of 1789, we did see that last time, talking about the establishment of the Supreme Court. There we go. The Coinage Act of 1792. Have not seen this one yet. President George Washington signed the Coinage Act of May 8th, on May 8th, 1792. It established the silver dollar as the unit of currency for the United States, established the U.S. Mint, and created a decimal system for U.S. currency. The act also described the first 10 coins that would be minted by the U.S. government, including a gold eagle coin, a disme, which would become a dime, and a half-cent coin. And I'm a bit of a amateur numismatist. That's a coin collector, by the way. I remember other ones they did. They did a 2-cent piece back in the day, a 3-cent piece, a half dime, which was not a nickel, but it was still 5 cents. It was a half dime. That's a good one. There we go. Confederate General. Wait a minute. This is far beyond Washington. Confederate General Robert E. Lee. Okay, I am the confused. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. Confederate General Robert E. Lee, I forgot about that, married George Washington's step-great-granddaughter, Mary Anna Rudolph Custis. Lee was an exceptional officer in the United States military until the secession of his home state, Virginia, at the beginning of the Civil War. He became the commander of the Confederate Army despite his desire for the Union to remain whole and his ties to the Union Army, saying, "I can anticipate no greater a calamity for the country than a dissolution of the Union." Oh, and I'm sure there's probably a Civil War set, and anybody that studied the Civil War knows that General Lee was absolutely correct. Ooh, myth about the White House. Was it that it was always white? We know it wasn't. Myth, Washington lived in the White House. Okay, well, that's good. He never did. No, never lived in the White House. Washington selected the site for the White House in 1791, but it took 8 years to build, so President John Adams and his wife Abigail were the first to move in, which would put it 1799, I think the same year that Washington died, if I'm not mistaken. And I think we have, we've got us another short print. It was a different color. It is a short print, one of 699, let's go, of President James Madison. All right, I'm going to finish this pack, and then I'm going to take a sip of off-camera mystery drink. James Madison, 1751 to 1836, was known as the father of the Constitution. He wrote the first drafts of the Constitution, essays for the Federalist Papers, absolutely hated reading those, and supported the Bill of Rights. He was a lifelong friend of Thomas Jefferson and moved from the Federalist Party to the Democratic-Republican Party. He served as Jefferson's Secretary of State, then 2 terms as president. Madison started and finished the War of 1812 against the British. The British had been impressing American seamen and encouraging Native American... Impressing? Or oppressing? Oh, Native American hostility to American westward expansion. The war ended with the Treaty of Ghent, declaring American victory and achieving none of the Americans' original objectives, but allowing the United States to expand into the Great Lakes area. Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner to celebrate the bombardment of Baltimore's Fort McHenry during the war, and I believe that was the Battle of Baltimore. Luckily, that fort held. Otherwise, more than likely, the British would have had much too strong a foothold for the colonists to overcome. Pause for a moment. It's off-camera drink time. Pardon me, President Madison. Pack number 2. Still hoping to get some sort of relic, or at least maybe another short print. No, nothing thicky in there, but matters not because I'm having a blast. Actually, was there anything of note? That looks a little different. We're going to put that... Oh, wait, no, there's another short print. Here we go. Pack number 2. George Washington House in Barbados. Oh, I did not know about this one. I actually didn't know him. I mean, it makes sense, but I didn't know it. The George Washington House in Barbados is where future president and his half-brother Lawrence stayed in 1751. George was 19 and contracted smallpox during his stay, then convalesced there for a month through his recovery. His brother was suffering from tuberculosis. Barbados is the only foreign country that Washington ever visited. Interesting. As a result of barely surviving smallpox, George Washington had his soldiers in the Revolutionary War inoculated against smallpox. We talked about that in the previous episode. Did not know that he was in Barbados. Battle of Jumonville Glen. Did we see that one? I don't think so. May 28, 1754 was the opening salvo in the French and Indian War. Lieutenant Colonel George Washington with a few Mingo warriors ambushed a small cadre of Canadians led by here we go. Come on, Canada. Joseph Coulon de Villers de Jumonville? I guess Jumonville. Somebody correct me. Who was killed in the skirmish. Okay, that makes sense. Washington retreated to Fort Necessity, where he was forced to surrender. The capitulation document Washington signed which was written in French, a language Washington did not know how to read and which may have been poorly translated for him, included language admitting that Jumonville and his men were assassinated. Fascinating. Did not know that of it. Here we go. One of the classic scenes, the American Revolutionary War. April 19th, 1775 to September 3rd, 1783, also known as the Revolutionary War or the American War of Independence, was fought between the 13 American colonies and Great Britain over the colony's independence. Engagements took place in North America, the Caribbean Sea, and in the seas surrounding England, the North Sea, the Irish Sea, and the English Channel. Estimates suggest approximately 100,000 men fought in the Continental Army, plus 200,000 in the militia. Approximately 20% of the male population of the colonies was involved in fighting the war. Good God. By the 1780s, there were approximately 500,000 British men in their army and navy. France engaged with Britain at sea and sent an estimated 12,000 soldiers and 32,000 sailors to help the Americans. Let's go. The war ended with the Treaty of Paris in 1783. And I believe I mentioned it in the last one. I believe that would be the Battle of Saratoga, where the French were like, okay, they can do it, so that's when they sent support. Somerset. What a pleasant little house. The home of Thomas Barclay in Morrisville, Pennsylvania, served as headquarters for General George Washington immediately after crossing the Delaware into Pennsylvania. It is likely he made the decision to attack Trenton instead of defend Philadelphia while staying there, a decision that reinvigorated his war effort. Today, Somerset is a museum and historic site owned by the Historic Morrisville Society and is the only home to have been owned by two signers of both the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution, Robert Morris and George Clymer. Interesting. There we go, another battle. This is Clinton's Bridge. Quinton's Bridge. Wait, we just saw that one. Yeah, didn't we? I'm fairly sure we just saw that one. Yes, we did. Is that some sort of short print? It is not. It is a double. We will move on. The election of 1788. God, that painting. George Washington was unanimously elected the first president of the United States in the nation's 1788 election. The vote was held December 15th, 1788 to January 10th, 1789. It was the only presidential election to straddle 2 years. Interesting. John Adams was elected as the first vice president with 34 electoral votes, beating out 10 other candidates for that job. I may have mistakenly said or partially said that it was the loser, but it may not have been necessarily that, but it was a separate office. They weren't running mates at the time. The Northwest Indian War. We did not see that one. 1786 to 1795, also known as Little Turtles War. We did see that name before, though. Was an armed conflict for control of the Northwest Territory fought between the United States and the Federation of Native American Nations, known today as the Northwestern Confederacy, with minor support from the British. The main cause of the war were the mistreatment of Native Americans in the United States expanding west. Oh, wait, we did see this one, because I remember the Battle of Fallen Timbers. Okay, I do absolutely remember this. Signed the Treaty of Greenville, and they got it for $20,000. There's another Washington quote. The basis of our political system is the right of the people to make and alter their constitutions of government. Well, that didn't last very long, now did it? In 1796, wrote George Washington in his farewell address to the nation. He was reminding people that they are the ones in charge of their own government, and they can make changes to how they are governed. Alexander Hamilton and James Washington helped Washington write the address. The letter was first published on September 19th, 1796, about 10 weeks before the election in 1796, that he did not partake in. He served 2 terms and left. Pardon me. We've got Washington, D.C. Still to this day are being abused by the one tenet that we all said, no taxation without representation. Washington, District of Columbia, was established as the nation's capital in 1790 at a site chosen by George Washington. Maryland and Virginia both ceded land for the project. The city was initially designed by Pierre Charles L'Enfant, who created a focal point of the Capitol building, but planning was taken over by Andrew Ellicott. The district was named for George Washington and for Columbia, a symbol of the United States whose place was usurped by the Statue of Liberty. And our final one of this pack, and it is another short print. It is another out of 699. We have the Battle of Trenton. That would be post the crossing of the Delaware. December 26, 1776. After the famous crossing of the Delaware River, George Washington led the Continental Army to Trenton, New Jersey. The attack began at 8 a.m. on December 26th. Washington's forces were victorious, capturing, wounding, or killing 2/3 of the 1,500 Hessian soldiers. Wow, Washington lost only 2 soldiers, both dying of exposure. The victory at Trenton earned Washington acclaim and inspired re-enlistments. And that was the thing. Pardon me one second. Off-camera drink. In the one card previous, it said rather than defend Philadelphia, Washington elected to attack Trenton, which at the time had to have seemed like it was crazy, but looking back on it, absolutely brilliant. Brilliant strategy. You got them on the ropes. They're not expecting it. You have the element of surprise. And he came across the river, and look what happened. Final pack. Come on, the power of President Madison. Hopefully some sort of relic. Does not look like it. Blast. Blast, blast, blast. That's all right. I do want to get more of this stuff. I might get more just for me, and if I ever pull a relic, I will show it. Let us begin. Pack number 3. Fox hunting. Controversial these days. George Washington enjoyed fox hunting with his foxhounds during the fall and winters he spent in Virginia. Fox hunting helped to improve his riding skills, as the terrain could be rough, and the hounds and the horses moved quickly. His slave, Billy Lee, was his huntsman, and Washington kept diaries of his hunts, which he often ended the hunts, writing that he often ended the hunts by letting the fox live. I know a lot of people did that, actually, weirdly. They would just basically hunt and trap them just to improve their own trapping skills and then let the fox go. I don't know how I feel either way. Bushrod Washington. That is a name for the ages. 1762 to 1829 was George Washington's nephew, Washington's brother's son, and served as an associate justice of the Supreme Court from 1798 to 1829. He was co-founder of the American Colonization Society, which promoted freed slaves emigrating to Africa. At President Washington's death, Bushrod inherited Washington's papers as well as Mount Vernon, although he did not move in there until Martha's death in 1802. Fascinating. Here we go. President John Adams. Did we see him last time? I don't think we did. Yeah, I think we did, but either way. 1735 to 1826, founding father in the United States and second president. The first vice president under George Washington. During his presidency, he built... I do remember that. The Alien and Sedition Acts made the legal imprisonment and deportation of people from a hostile nation. Lost his bid for a second term as president to Thomas Jefferson. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he and Thomas Jefferson, I believe it was, died within hours of each other on the same day. I think it was July the 4th. I can't remember who went first. But the one that lived a little longer did not know of the death of the other one because word took forever to travel back then. The Battle of Trenton, we just saw that one in the last pack. Come on, baby. Oh, the Moreland House. Here's a new one. Beautiful house. The Moreland House in Pennsylvania became General George Washington's headquarters in the summer of 1777 for about 2 weeks. And that's the thing. The old running joke is you see the signs in like the cartoons, like George Washington slept here. You go around Pennsylvania, you're going to actually find a lot of that. During the encampment, the Marquis de Lafayette joined Washington as a major general, and Count Casimir Pulaski also met with Washington there. We got James Madison, we got his short print before. We'll put him there. Anthony Wayne. That hair, though. 1745 to 1796 was nicknamed Mad Anthony for his tactical boldness and courage in battle. He was a statesman and soldier who rose to the rank of brigadier general, also served as a member of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, and helped raise a militia for the state and served at the Siege of Yorktown. President Washington appointed Wayne commander-in-chief of the U.S. Army to subdue the Native Americans in the Northwest. Wayne built 5 forts and defeated them at the Battle of Fallen Timbers. We saw that earlier. Wrote the Treaty of Greenville. We saw that earlier. That ended the Northwest Indian War. We saw that earlier. Pardon me. Another map. Ooh, here we go. Pinckney's Treaty, or the Treaty of San Lorenzo. That should look slightly familiar to some people. Defined the border between the United States and Spanish Florida and allowed American ships to navigate freely on the Mississippi River, as well as duty-free transport through the port of New Orleans, which was under Spanish control. The region for which Spain relinquished its claim became the Mississippi Territory. The treaty was negotiated by Thomas Pinckney, the United States envoy to Spain, and Don Manuel de Godoy, yeah, that would make sense, an envoy for Spain, and signed on October 27, 1795. It made western expansion easier for settlers. Yeah, and as you can see there, so there would be the port of New Orleans, which is under, as you can see on this, all that Spanish control, so we got access to the Mississippi to go up, which basically opens all of this on the east. And even Washington knew he who controls the rivers is going to control, at that time, controls the U.S. Another Washington quote, probably from the farewell address. It is better to offer no excuse than a bad one. 1791, wrote Washington to his 15-year-old niece, Harriet Washington. Washington had written to her uncle blaming the short nature of her note on a relative hurrying her. George Washington's letter is dated Sunday, October 30th, 1791. It's better to offer no excuse than a bad one. I mean, he's really not that wrong. And our final, and we saw this card last time, the battlefield victories, which said myth, Washington won a lot of battlefield victories. Actually, no, we found out he did not. He lost a lot of them, but won the decisive ones. And this is a short print, another of the 699. And that is going to do it. What a box. This is why I absolutely love, I just love history. And I love the fact that there's so many avenues for history and trading cards to be combined into something like this. I had an absolute blast with this blaster. They do have a lot more stuff. As you can see from Sunday's video, I got from Milo a pack of the flight cards, which I am really looking forward to opening, along with another pack of these and a pack from the World War II ones. I know they have a World War I. They have a Gilded Age box that looked really good. They have presidential relics for the first 36, or not relics, but presidential series. Alas, we did not get any sort of Washington-touched relic, but there might be in the future, because this stuff was a lot of fun, and I actually think piecing together one of these sets would be time-consuming but fun. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the Washington Chronicles Blaster. Normal insanity and chaos shall resume probably tomorrow, because it's Jank Pack Thursday. Episode number 98, by the way. We're rapidly approaching the 100th episode Jank stream. But that is going to do it. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this series as much as I did, because more history is going to be coming at you in the near future. So thank you much. We'll see you tomorrow.